I've been, I'm like an old member of this space. I've been full-time in the blockchain space since middle 2011 when I first saw Bitcoin. And that was a very exciting event for me. But to be honest, I didn't understand why is it so exciting, because I just got excited. Just like I got excited from the internet back in 93 or 4. I didn't realize why I'm so excited from the internet. It took me many years to understand that I'm excited because if it's a kind of a decentralized network that allows all the network to connect together, but I didn't I wasn't able to conceptualize that in the beginning. And I think that today I can better conceptualize why I got excited in 2011. I can explain it in words. And it goes like this. So here's a little thought experiment. Let's imagine that Earth is depleted of resources, and we find a new planet which is just like Earth with all the animals and plants, just no humans. And we have a way to take all the humans there, but we cannot take anything else, just us with our clothes, and we'll have to rebuild everything when we get there. Just imagine that. And let's imagine that all we can take for the entire humanity is like something in the size of this room. That's the only cargo that all humanity can take to this new planet of Earth, themselves and this size of room of a cargo. What would we take in the cargo? What would be the most important thing to bring to this new planet where all humanity is moving to, whereas we're very limited by space? And as you think about the answer for that, anyone has an idea? What would we take? Yeah? That's actually pretty good. I define it in a different word. What we'll take is information. Information is all our history, and it's what we can use to build all our future.
But it's just one CD. I thought the internet was just cat videos.
Because if you think about it like that, information is the only valuable thing that culture and progress ever produce, and the most useful thing going forward to the future. Information. We are an information producing species. And so if we talk about information, there's basically only 3 things you can do with information. You can process information, you can transfer information over space, and you can store information, which is essentially transferring information through time. Right? These are the 3 things you can do with information. Now, the brain processes information. Animals can do that as well. But what separates us from animal is that we can transfer information very effectively. That's what makes us human. We're not just processing information effectively, we're transferring it. And when we learn how not just to transfer by talking, but to store it by writing, this is what took us from hunter-gatherer to modern civilization. So the ability to store information over time is the most important critical ability that actually brought the revolution of humanity, if you will. The same exact cycle happens with technology. The first technology was the computer, just an information processing machine. It's a very, in World War II, it was like breaking the Enigma code. And then we had networks to enable transferring information between computers. And then came the database server, that if you have a network and you have a computer and it's like storing information for the entire network, or a set of servers that stores the information. And that architecture of a database server, it changed the entire way that humanity organized information, both in banks, in governments, in any institution, in any business. Everything uses that. And that process started since the 40s and revolutionized the world way before most of us were born. And then we enter the 3rd cycle. The exact same order of the cycle, but not about technology this time, but it's about standards of technology, which is standard is a different word for agreement between people. And the first agreement that we had that related to technology, I was a young kid, I remember seeing that on the TV, the IBM compatible PC. Here's an architecture for a computer that is standard. Anyone in the world can manufacture it. It's not like Apple or digital or all those proprietary platforms that control the market and were like giant companies before the PC. All of a sudden you have a standard architecture for a computer and everyone's using it. And during, I started programming on the PC, it was even before the PC, on the Apple. When I was 7, I was like growing in this revolution of personal computer. And then a lot of proprietary networks started to form between those computers. I don't know who remembers here the era of BBSs in Israel and CompuServe and Prodigy and AOL and all those proprietary database network services, proprietary network services all over the world. And all of a sudden we were able to get to an agreement about a new standard, which is not a standard of how to build a computer, but a standard of how to network. We called it the internet, which is just an agreement about a set of protocols that if you use those protocols, you can communicate with each other. It's more, when we're saying standard or an agreement, it's just like a language. It's like Hebrew. There's no, it's just or English. And the reason that I can transfer information to you right now is because we agree on the same standard called English and the meaning of the funny noises that I keep making from here. And that was the end of all the proprietary network in the world. Dead, gone. It's like you never hear about it. They don't make sense anymore, proprietary network. And then we went right into the era that we still live in today, which is the era of proprietary databases. So we had proprietary computer architectures, proprietary computers. Then we had the era of proprietary networks, ended with the internet, of course. And now we are living in the era of proprietary databases. How do I know? Look at the biggest companies in the world. What they have is proprietary databases. That's their main asset. And in that era, as the control of the proprietary database companies, and it's not just internet, it's banks, it's even governments to some extent. Proprietary database, whoever controls them, is, creates a network effect that is almost impossible to compete, just like proprietary networks used to be. And now, at the midst of this centralization and concentration of power, we are being introduced to the technology of decentralized database, which is about what blockchain is. It's very, very simple. If the internet protocols are protocols that can carry information through space, I'm here, you're there, and I'm sending you the information, and it has no cost, by the way, just like it has no cost that I'm talking here and sending information to you by talking. It has no cost. However, the blockchain set of protocols is a set of protocols that carry information through time. So if I submit some kind of a Bitcoin transaction, then I can be sure that in 10 years, I'll be able to access that transaction and read that transaction. It will be there as long as Bitcoin has some value. If it has a price, if someone considers Bitcoin valuable, then I will find the information there, which kind of explains to you why all those protocols need a token. Because while transferring information through space does not incur any costs, even on the network. If I'm sending now on my internet, I'm sending video to someone else, there's no cost. The infrastructure is already there, it was paid for, there's no extra cost from sending the information. However, just like again, there's no cost for me talking to you right now. But if we want to record that and treasure that talk forever, that will have costs, because it actually requires physical matter in order to save that conversation through time. And because it has costs, someone needs to pay for that. Someone needs to be paid to save the information. And the only way to do that in a decentralized way is through a token. You cannot compensate a decentralized networks of independent agents to do a work for you in a decentralized manner with dollars. That just doesn't work. The idea is that it's unlike the internet protocol, which are mostly one-to-one, these protocols are like protocols where it's many-to-many protocols. So there are many actors that are using these protocols, and again, miners on one side, users on the other side. And those protocols really solve that problem of being able to introduce a standard database, which is open and public, just like the internet for network, but for databases. Now, it's hard for people to comprehend the meaning of that. If I would be here to, 25 years ago and tell you, oh, so this internet, every communication technology is going to be bankrupt with it, it's going to die in the next 30 years. Everyone would think I'm crazy. But that's exactly what happened. The internet is killing any other communication solution out there very effectively. So what I'm going to tell you now, and maybe you'll think I'm crazy, but I don't care, is that every proprietary database is going to be gone from this planet, and it's not going to take long.
You're crazy. Then you may be right.
No, well, there are proprietary databases, like private database, of course. And I'm going to tell you in the internet, there are VPNs. You can use the internet for your private network. Yeah, you build a VPN. It's great. And it's great for businesses. And businesses produce, a lot of money. And, this is a great business. Not saying anything bad about it. Private networks like intranets. You remember the whole intranet craze? Some of you, maybe. It is okay to use all this technology in the enterprise. But the area that I'm personally focused on, and I would say excited about, is to see how those technology affect our culture. How do they change the way that we interact? How do they change the business dynamics in the world? And I think in this case, and the most important thing, is how do they change monopolies? Because there is always, progress is made when there is choice, when there is a multiple option, when there is evolution. If you have, like in restaurants, I don't know if you read there's a good book, Skin in the Game, or Anti-Fragile by Nassim Taleb, talks about those things. When you have a lot of instances that are trying to do something, like many startups that are trying to solve email problem, then you're going to have one that is really, really good. And when you have that for any, when you have many companies trying to build the best phone, you'll have one that's really, really good. The other are dying, one is thriving, and that's a good thing because it rewards people that are doing things well, and doing things well meaning that they're serving other people for doing that other people wants that. We don't have competition in many areas today in the world because we have monopolies. Monopoly is the opposite of, it's the lack of choice. While free markets and competition is user choice or consumer choice, monopoly is lack of choice. And when you have lack of choice, it stifles progress. And today we have increasingly more and more areas where there's lack of choice. Why? Because proprietary database creates huge network effect that cannot be competed with. Who's going to build a social network to compete with Facebook? I mean, if you manage to get close, they'll buy you or copy everything you do, like they prove that they can do. Because they have it's like a company that owns the internet today. Who could compete with that company? Network effect is a very, very powerful thing. It means that as you have more members in the network, the value of the network grows. The value that it provides to the end user grows. But what we're forgetting to ask is who's profiting from that value? Who's benefiting from that value? So the value of the network effect of YouTube, yes, everyone posting to YouTube, everyone's searching for video on YouTube. It has an amazing network effect. Who benefits from that? YouTube, Google. It's the only beneficiary. But the internet also has a network effect because we are all connected to the internet and we can do a lot of stuff, and that's why it's so successful. Who benefits from the network effect of the internet? The ISPs? No. They have competition, unlike Google or unlike Facebook. The ISP do not benefit from that. Who benefits from the network effects is the end user. We get the value. And that is exactly what will happen with databases and with online services. I like to call it open source services. So today we have open source software, which is nice. But if you think about it, very few people in the world actually use software. I mean, download it, install it, it's like not really, it's not a great model. But online services, my mother used those every day, all the time. So online services is the killer app, is the popular thing, and they were not able to be open source. They're not, open source software, by the way, it's another example of an industry that was proprietary, It was part of the PC revolution and became decentralized. Because an open source software is something that no one can control. And that's the key with decentralization. And it's a business key. Why is Bitcoin has advantages over other platforms in some areas, by the way? It has many disadvantages. This is why it's not adopted for payments and maybe never will. But the advantage that it has is that no single party controls it. Just like the advantage the internet has. And when no single party controls it, then anyone can fork it, which happened several times. That is one thing that you can do with open source software. You can do it even with PC architecture. You would do it with network protocols, but you could not do it with proprietary database. You cannot fork Facebook, but you can fork any blockchain in the world. Why? Because the information is public. So if the database has the public information, even if it's encrypted, still public in its encrypted form, it means, so I cannot read it, but I can replicate the database, and not just the database, the user base, which is even more important. As mentioned in the last talk, we're talking about, you lost your key, you lost your access to the data. And this is a whole paradigm shift in the way that we perceive security. No longer is the authentication process happening on the server. The authentication process is moving to the end user. And the advantage of that is not just much better security because you need to hack to every user account in order to break the system. It's not like today, someone hack a server and get like 10 million credit card numbers and IDs of some group. We're talking about a personal security model that is much, much stronger. But what even more powerful than the security model of that model is that if I own my private key and now I'm using this, let's say, blockchain-based Twitter. Let's imagine. And let's say that this blockchain-based Twitter is not going to good places, and some people think that it should go here, some people think it should go there. It can be forked. And as a user, I can use each one because I control my own authentication. I have my private key. So I can use this service, and this is how the forks happened before. And the fact that you can fork something is actually putting those who manage that project, that service, it put them in base, like managing an open source software project. Yes, you could be the coordinator and decide what goes where, but you're not a dictator. Because the moment that you try to enforce your opinion, you can be forked. And it's the threat of forking that is more important. Not the actual events, but the threat, because if you know that you can be forked at any moment, but anyone that is not feeling happy with how you do that, and someone else from the community can say, I'm forking Bitcoin. I don't like where Bitcoin is going. Who's with me? Bitcoin Cash or Bitcoin Satoshi Vision or whatever. All top 10 currencies, by the way, cryptocurrencies. Then we see in those situations that, whoever managed the project has a lot, not a lot, but a very, very different set of consideration. Now, the problem is that because we need those tokens, it kind of opens the imagination of people. And first of all, it leads to a mistake that many people think that blockchains is about tokens, is about digital money. It's not about that. It's like the CEO of IBM thinking, the world needs just 5 computers. Why? Because just like blockchain, the first database in the world just did ledgers. In fact, this is still the most important function of database in human civilization, running ledgers. That apparently seems to be a very important database for all of us. Who owns what? And what are the changes in that ownership? So the fact that a lot of the blockchain use cases start with ledgers, with coins, is just because it's a very, very useful utility for us, but it's by no means limited to that use case. Again, it's a decentralized database. The CEO of IBM didn't understand how many uses database will have in today's world and how many computers we'll need for that. So that leads to confusion in our industry where people really think that it's about the token. No, the token is a necessity. Now, it is right that you can create something like Bitcoin, which started this whole thing, which is essentially a digital gold. Yeah. Let's remember we abandoned gold, and we even abandoned gold-backed currencies many years ago. Now I know a lot of self-proclaimed experts will tell you how bad of a choice it was. You know, it's funny because humanity never made as much progress as it made in even the last 10 years. Just in terms of eradicating poverty, I mean, the numbers are just plummeting. So I'm really happy that there's so many people that used to be engineers and now think they can redesign the world economy that can explain to us how could we have done things better. But excuse me from not buying it. I think there's a lot of people from the blockchain industry that are trying to venture into the world monetary design and just spread a lot of confusion. Blockchain is a technology. We should treat it as a technology. We should judge it as a technology. The only reason it needs a token is because it costs money to carry information over time, unlike carrying information over space, which is for free. That's the only reason we need token. Now, can we implement currencies and national currencies and corporate currencies and local currencies over the blockchain? Sure. It has nothing to do with the fact that you need some kind of a token for this protocol to work. And if the world monetary system and the future, and if we'll ever need digital gold or not, or store of value, these are open questions. And the right approach is like, we don't know. We're here to look, we're here to find out, we'll see how things progress step by step. It's not like we can understand today how it's going to end. So I think that everyone that is in this room and in this space is in for quite a ride. Because if you make the analogy, what was the change between the fact, from the moment that we got networks to the moment that we got database with technology, and we see that database was the real thing that made the real change, just like writing made the real change in human civilization. So I'm here to say that blockchain will make the real change in technology. What we've seen today was just a preview. It's almost clear to us that, yeah, if I'm going to Facebook, I'm going to see just Facebook stuff. But guess what? There wouldn't be a Facebook if it was blockchain based, because obviously, if every social network is its own blockchain, then you'll have one social network client. You'll just get all of it and connect to all your friends of all this. It's so stupid that we have different friends and different social network and different application and different. If those social network were public databases and open protocols, we'll be using a whole different level of technology today. And the amount of integration, if Google indexes were not their proprietary indexes, but were public database, as they should be, the amount of innovation that could happen on those databases is unimaginable. The world is living in a reality of data, I would say, data ghettos that are closed and inaccessible. And that is going to change. And that revolution is going to be so much bigger than the revolution of the industry, of the internet that we're so excited about, that it's going to make it look tiny and insignificant in the same way that the internet revolution made the PC revolution look tiny and insignificant. So we're in for a very, very interesting ride. And I think that Amazon is doing a great thing by allowing easier development and onboarding of products and services that use that technology, that leverage that. Just like, I would congratulate every company that would make it easier to build internet application back in '99. And I think this is a very, very exciting space, even though that, I remember in 2000, I was not able to raise money for my company. My first startup, '98, was Contact.com. It was a social network, both private and business, so like a LinkedIn, Facebook together, but in a downloadable app, because '98 you didn't have web apps. I was not able to raise $1 to this company during 2000, 2001. Everyone thought that the internet is stupid and nothing going to come out of it, and what is a social network? It's a really stupid concept. And I had to shut down the company, which I did. We're living in a similar timing right now. I mean, there was a lot of excitement about blockchain. Everyone's like, oh, it's going to change the world. And now it's like everyone too excited. And now everyone is too unexcited. They think, oh, it's just a fun, nothing going to happen. But neither are right. I mean, it is going to be amazing. No one even imagined how amazing the internet is going to be in 2001. But it's not happening in a day. It's happening because people like you are building services and building technology that other people use. The last thing that I want to say is maybe to give you a kind of a use case to how we chose to leverage this technology. And I don't know how long I got.
Not too long.
Not too long. I'll give it in 2 minutes, okay? So we started in 2011, as I told you, kind of getting excited about the blockchain. And then my previous company was MetaCafe. And the biggest mistake I did with MetaCafe is not understanding the long tail of video, which YouTube have served much better. And they kind of won, if you noticed, the battle. And the idea is that it really burned in my memory that long tail is important and I shouldn't miss it again. When I saw Bitcoin, maybe because of that, I thought, oh my God, there's going to be millions of currencies. There's going to be so much more. Now, it took many years, but I got excited about that. And we started to get into building a system for user-generated currency. In Israel, we had like Mamazon Hearts and Girim for students. We did a lot of experiments here with that idea, but we discovered that we cannot solve the liquidity problem, that we cannot make all those currencies liquid to each other, meaning to enable people to convert. We didn't have a solution for this problem because those are small currencies. If it's like a stock of a company or a country's currency, then exchanges work fine. But no exchange is going to list a currency that's used by 1,000 mums. It's just not going to have the right activity and liquidity in the market. And we didn't have a solution for that. But as we learned about new blockchain technology and smart contracts, we finally realized that using that technology, we can change the whole paradigm of how assets are exchanged with each other. Because smart contracts and public blockchain allows you to have something that is like a virtual trustee, like a virtual agent that holds assets and behaves in a predictable way, which is what trustees should do in the legal world. And using this virtual trustee, we created what we now call a token relay, which is essentially a smart contract that holds two tokens and allows anyone to convert one token to another. And when someone is doing that, the price is changing. But this is actually allowing asynchronous trading, because today in exchange, you need to put together a buyer and seller. But thanks to blockchain smart contracts and Bancor technology that utilize it, now there are 130 different tokens that you can buy and sell right now on Ethereum and EOS. It actually works cross-blockchain, where you can buy and sell any token, and you don't need a party on the other side to be connected with, because you're always dealing with a smart contract. So you're buying and selling from a virtual human rather than a real one. When did we have any situation where a piece of code can own assets? I mean, the kind of stuff that it took me, I've been in technology for, since I was 7. It took me years to kind of get myself to understand how can I leverage the technology of smart contracts to my concept and the problems that I'm trying to address. So take your time. Learn the technology. Learn how to think in that. It's like object-oriented, right? If someone is like moved to object-oriented programming sometimes of his life, it's like a whole different state of mind. This is the same thing here. Don't treat it like any other technology. It changes everything. It changes how you think about it. It changes the option that is related. It's like you don't build an encyclopedia on the internet. You build a Wikipedia on the internet. It's a different type of solution when you build it on the internet. And the same is true for the blockchain. Whatever solution you're going to build, whether it's on the Amazon platform or it's a different type of thinking, it's a different type of solution, and take the time to get used to it. And I guarantee you that it is the best place for any technologies to be today. Thank you.